What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Age of Empires 4 build order guide. Today we will be covering the Order of the Dragon Fast Castle. Now, Order of the Dragon is actually my favorite civilization, hands down. It's the first civ that I really learned to play, and in my opinion, it is the most fun to play with your crazy tank units, your incredible crossbows and hand cannons, and the sexiest looking knights in the entire game, for sure. Now, is Order of the Dragon as strong as the Holy Roman Empire? Probably not, but is it more fun to play? Big time. And even well into the Platinum rank, people just don't know how to respond to this civilization. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. To start the game, you're going to send your 5 starting villagers onto sheep. You will go ahead and get your scout out and moving. It's important to note that Order of the Dragon only starts with 5 villagers rather than 6. And that is because your villagers are better than standard villagers. They gather significantly faster. It's like 28% faster. And then they build like 20% faster. So 5 onto sheep. Your very first villager that comes out of the town center is going to come over to gold. You're first going to build a house, and then you will build a mining camp. And then you will rally a second villager over to gold. Now, you'll notice my scouting pattern is a little bit different here. I like to scout right close to my base with Order of the Dragon. The purpose of this is because you are typically looking to find the close-by deer pack as quickly as you can. If you find it immediately, you will almost always send these 5 villagers over to it, build a mill on top of the deer, and just start gathering. Usually, Order of the Dragon villagers can gather up the majority of the deer before any threats come in the Feudal Age, where you can just run them back once they get closer, once threats start appearing on the map. Against English, I don't like to do that just because English will send longbows and harass you very quickly. But typically, you're looking to find deer as quickly as possible. So if I had found this, I probably would have gone on it almost immediately. So what you're going to do is 5 on sheep. You're going to come over to the gold with 2. You only want 2 villagers on gold. That's all you need to get to feudal. Then you will rally back to sheep. So I'm now rallying here to sheep until the age up. In the meantime, I'm going to be then scouting the rest of the map, looking to get as many sheep as I can, and then looking to find where my opponent is, see what they're doing as far as landmarks go. If they're going to be building any buildings or any military production once they get into feudal, to see what's going to happen. One thing I really love about this particular build order is that it is very flexible, which I will come back to. You're going to take 2 sheep villagers when you have the resources to age up, and you're going to build the Aachen Chapel. The Aachen Chapel will go right on top of your closest wood line. This is because you want that Aachen gathering bonus on the wood, as well as the sheep that is going to make it so that you gather resources a little bit more quickly. Now, what I was saying earlier was this build is very flexible in that you have the ability to rush to castle. You'll typically get to castle around 8 minutes and 30-45 seconds. You can rush it and build no units and get there just a little bit faster, or you can build a couple of units and defend yourself if you want to take it slower, if your opponent is going to be getting really aggressive. This build actually gives you a solid footing to play a long feudal game if you don't want to fast castle. Let's say you're coming up against Jushi's Legacy, or you're playing against the English like I am here in this bot match, and they are just rushing you with units, and you see that they're building a lot of military. You can actually transition directly out of the fast castle by pulling a couple of villagers off of gold and then sending them onto like wood, and then just get your production buildings up and continue as normal. So once you are aging up, one thing that's really important to note is you're actually going to take villagers off of food, off of sheep, until you only have 4 here, and then you're going to send them on wood. And then once you have your 4th villager on wood, you will then rally back out to gold. So during the age up process, keep 4 on sheep, get 4 onto wood, and then start rallying out to gold. I like to immediately build these 2 towers. Against the English especially, if I'm playing against a different civilization where I don't think that they're going to be too aggressive, I might only build 1 tower, but I typically almost always build this first tower as Order of the Dragon because your villagers are so much more precious than other civilizations They take longer to build, and they also, more of your economy is baked into each individual villager, which means when you lose them, it's so much more painful than any other civilization. So you want to protect them absolutely at all costs. Once the age up completes on the Aachen, you will then send those villagers back over to the sheep. You need to immediately build a mill because you are going to be looking to get pro scouts and wheelbarrow in the feudal age. Now, you don't have to do this pro scouts. I really do like it. I think that it sets you up for success because in any game where you're going to be playing a little bit longer of a game, whether you're in feudal or whether you're getting to castle, getting the deer off the map, Order of the Dragon is really good at gathering deer, and getting them to your town center where you can safely gather them just gives you so much versatility, and it means that you can play a little bit longer game where the economy of the Order of the Dragon really takes off once you get into castle and then into imperial. So I really like pro scouts. I like to immediately get up a stable. I will then go out to wherever the deer packs are. I like to go to one that's kind of out in the middle of the map that's contested. It's worth noting that almost always there's going to be a deer pack like this where this belongs to the opponent, so I don't think I would ever go for this one. He'll see me going up to take that, as well as it's behind his base, so it'd be difficult to get that anyway. So I'll go for this deer pack, I'll go for this deer pack, and then I think there's one that I didn't really scout. You can see the deer here, but there's another deer pack over here, so I'll gather those. I think I do 2 scouts here, so get 2 scouts out, and then after that I typically will go for a horseman or 2, depending on the situation. Not every game, but a lot of the time I like to get out 2 horsemen. You can use those 2 horsemen just to go harass like the enemy gold line, find out where they are on the map, and then continue using your scout to get vision. One thing that I want to talk about now, once you get 6 onto gold, that's all that you need. You are then going to rally back to the sheep. I like to leave 4 villagers on wood the entire time, just because it'll give you the flexibility to build military production if you need to transition. This will also allow you to start building some farms to give you a greater longevity for all of your eco. Your first scout that you have in the game, I don't typically use this to gather deer immediately. I like to send these 2 scouts out to start gathering the deer, and this one, I just use it to scout the opponent's base. Don't forget that just because you went pro scouts, you don't have to use every single scout to gather deer. You can still use this guy for what he was originally intended, which is finding out what your opponent's doing. Then, once I'm certain I know what my opponent's doing and that I have an answer to it, I will then transition him back over to gathering deer with the rest of the scouts. So, I typically, during the Feudal Age, will use one of my gold villagers to build almost all of the houses that I need. That's why you'll see there's 3 houses right here, always by a gold villager. You're typically going to have excess gold using these 6 villagers on gold in just getting to castle. And then once you get to castle, you're going to need to put a couple more villagers on gold because you want to get all of your upgrades. You want to start producing knights, and you want to start producing monks. So typically I like to go up with the regnates. I like to age up with 7 or 8 villagers, so I'll take all of my wood villagers, use them to age up, and then I will grab another 3 or 4 villagers from the sheep in order to age up. You want to make sure that all 6 of these villagers are gathering gold the whole time you're aging up, and that you are gathering lots of food during this time. See the deer is starting to come in. Because as soon as you get into castle, you are going to produce a couple of knights, as well as a monk or 2 to start gathering relics, and that's going to be very heavy on your gold and your food. But from there, you're basically going to play this build as you would any other castle rush. Order of the Dragon is very strong when it comes to gathering relics because of regnates, just like Holy Roman Empire. So you want to take a relic or 2, put it in towers. You want to surround your base with towers, get all the relics inside of them, and then just from here, what's most important is that you defend yourself to the best of your ability. Typically, civs will try and harass you, rush you at this point in time, so you may need to get up some other production, as well as start producing units. So just make sure that you do that, but other than that, I hope you do well with this one. Really important to mention, that when you're playing OOTD, one of the most important things, you will live and die by this, you have to counter the units that your opponent builds. It is so important to do so. If the early units are rock paper scissors, meaning horses counter archers, archers counter spearmen, and spearmen counter horses, then Order of the Dragon is like each time you play rock paper scissors, you're playing for a best of 3. And so if you win, it's like you just won 2 in a row. And if you lose, it's like you just lost 2 in a row. And so it is so important that you play for those counters. When you start seeing enemy units, you need to immediately put out production that's specifically going to counter those units. And you need to remember that Order of the Dragon cannot pivot very quickly into other units because their units are so expensive. So that's why it's okay to wait a little bit to start building units. But once you know what the opponent is building, you need to immediately start countering. And make sure that you're well protected so that you can get relics into your towers, gather up all of the relics, and then play a pretty normal Castle Age game from there. Anyway, once again, I hope you all enjoyed this. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, want help with the build order, or want any other tips with regards to Order of the Dragon, I'd love to help out. Other than that, I will see you all in the next video. Thank you.